Okay, today we're going to go over the final adjustments of the bike so that it fits your body style and the way you're going to ride the bike. And then we're going to go over how to set up the display for all the parameters that you're going to need, how to eliminate throttle limitation. Okay, so let's start off by going over adjustments to the bike. This is your final adjustments now. The first thing you got to do is the tire pressure. When I got the bike, tire pressure is right around 10 pounds or so. So I got inflated up to 20 pounds is what they recommend. Now, if the tires come to you arrive in completely flat, then when you put air into the tire, you got to make sure that the tire is seated on the rim. So the bead should be inside the rim. If it isn't, you're going to have to push on the tire until it goes into the rim. So that's kind of critical, but most times they send you with some air in the tires. That's huge of an issue. Now the next thing, when you ride the bike for 20 miles or so, it's best idea to retorque all the bolts on the bike, because after initial ride, sometimes the bolts have a tendency of loosening up. Okay, now the next thing we're going to make sure is that after you've adjusted your handlebar to your final liking, tighten down the bolts, make sure they're nice and firm. And then when you adjust these handlebars, sometimes these controls are going to move on you. So if you got to tilt it forward a lot to push it away from you if you got long arms, well, these things may be tilted too far over, so now you have to loosen up each component and tilt it back to the angle that you want. So you just loosen it up to the angle you want, tighten it up. Same with display, adjust the display and then tighten it up. Okay, the next thing we're going to go over is positions of these throttles. I got it like this angle. Basically, when you're riding the bike, you want to keep the wrist straight, and you want your palm is going to naturally bend over, and you want it to be lightly resting on these things. So if you got this thing angled up too much horizontal, you could be putting a lot of pressure on the palm over the long duration of the ride. So just make sure that the palm is just lightly brushing these things. Okay, the next thing is to adjust the height of the saddle here. So it should come up to slightly below your hip bone here, so that when you get on the bike and you're sitting on a bike, you should be on tippy toe like this. And you should be able to flat foot over the bar, which I'm 5'5". If you're 5'2", you're not going to be able to do this unless you got long legs. The reason why you want to be on tiptoe is that you see that when the pedal is all the way down, it's a few inches off the ground. So if you adjust the seat and your feet is flat-footed, when you're pedaling, your leg is not going to be extended properly, so you won't get the best pedaling effort out of it. Now, when you adjust the seat, you have adjustments to move the seat back and forth in the tilt, but stock is pretty good. It's horizontal, and the seat should be firm. If it's not firm, then you have to adjust the clamp pressure by turning the knob on the side here. So you could tighten the clamp and loosen the clamp, so that would tighten up the seat onto the frame. One last thing I want to mention, didn't explain this on assembly, is that this is the correct position of your rear light. These three items should be pointing down. It's kind of self-explanatory somewhat, but maybe not, I don't know. Okay, so now a couple of other adjustments we're going to make. The first one is going to be the fork itself. On this side of the fork we have lock and open. So in some instances, you may want to lock the shocks on the fork so that it doesn't move at all. So this is like on highway and going long distances or for speed, you want to lock it tight so that it becomes just like a regular unadjustable bike. This way you get all the power transferred to the road and not soaked up by spring motion of the shocks. So that's pretty easy. Just click it all the way to lock. If you want to open, just click it all the way down to open. We got to open because we want to have the shock dampening. So this controls your shock dampening. On this side, it's called a preload. And what this does is, this is the spring action of the suspension. So this is the shock, which is the dampens the suspension. This is the spring. This will make the spring stiffer or softer. So now this is very dependent on how much you weigh naturally. So if you're a heavier person riding on a bike, you want to adjust this thing so that causes sag. Okay, now we're going to show you how to adjust for sag. First of all, so if you notice on the right fork, we have an O-ring. This O-ring is not designed as a seal, but it's to show you sag, so you can take measurements and you know how to preset your preload. So we push the O-ring all the way down. So, like I said before, a lot of people use the preload as making it a cushy ride because it softens up the springs. But we want this O-ring to come up 25% of the way up on the shocks. That tells you that your preload is set for the weight of the rider. You may bottom out your fork, which is bad for your frame. And then you get on a bike like you're sitting on it, and then you just lean forward like you're riding a bike. You just push down on it like you're going over a bump. And then this measurement should be right around 25% of the total length of the shock. So you want to be between 25 and 30%, but you want to be more or less more than 25%. If you're going down really bumpy terrains or bike trails, you want to keep an eye on that. So you don't want to come all the way up here and then end up bottoming out your shocks. So I hope that explains the function of the preload. Now we're going to move to the rear shock adjustment. This is an air shock. So you adjust the amount of air pressure inside the shock by how much you weigh and or the cargo that you're going to be using. The shock comes from the factory set up for about 600 pounds of load, which for me, since I don't carry any cargo, I weigh on 135 pounds, is way too stiff. So I have to release the air pressure to make it softer for me, so when I ride on it, you can see it moving. Again, like the front shock, you don't want to release too much air pressure out, otherwise you could be bottoming out the shock. Now, the only way to adjust that air pressure is to get yourself a shock pump like this. This is a company we used. It's highly rated. It's a pretty good system. So it works just like any other hand pump, but what it does is that when you attach this to the shock, okay, normally if you use a regular pump, as soon as you start twisting this thing on, you usually hear psst, and then you just lost air pressure. Well, the air pressure on these shocks are pretty sensitive, so you don't want any of that air pressure. So you make sure it's tightened down and it's locked so that there's no air pressure, see? Now, the valve of this thing is not pushing down into the shock yet. So like, you push your finger in, then releases the air pressure or increases pressure. Well, it doesn't do that until you pull this lever down. And if you pull this lever forward, it's going to push that pin forward and it's going to enter into the valve. That's a safety device so that you don't lose any air pressure going in or out by using this lever. So if we push this lever forward, you see the pressure? Now I have it set for 48 pounds. So what you do is you just pump up this pressure to the weight that you need. So if you're a heavier person, you may have to pump it up. If you're a lighter person, you just use this little knob here and this releases the air pressure. So you don't use your fingers, just use this little knob and you can release it in small increments at a time. So psst, psst, psst. Just momentary touch releases about 1 pound. Now once you got the pressure set, then what you do is you open up the valve, like pull back the lever like this, which pulls the pin away from the valve. Now you have no air leakage. When you start to unscrew this, you don't hear no air leakage at all. Now sometimes you may hear a little hiss, but that's from the air that's in here and not what's coming out of the shock. So you got to get one of these shock pumps. It's crucial, what's in the pump. Now this is important. Once you adjust the pressure, you're going to have to bounce up and down the bike about 8 or 9 times, or take it for a short ride. Then you got to go back and take another reading and make sure it's the same. Because when you play around the pressure, there's like a positive and negative bladder in here. So you got to bounce the bike up and down so that you equalize that positive negative pressure inside the air shock system. And this way you get a true accurate reading. So you may have to pump up or release air a couple times, bounce it up and down. So it takes about 3 or 4 times to get a stable setting. Just want to point that out. Just don't do it once and think you're set. You got to do a couple times to make sure that it's all stabilized. Then your shocks are good to go. Like I said, I'm 135 pounds or 133 pounds and I got it set for 48 PSI. Your mileage naturally be different. Well, that's it for the adjustments. Okay, so now we're going to set the display according to the performance that you expect from the bike. First thing we do is turn everything on. So turn the battery on, turn the ignition key on, turn the power button on. Okay, now once it's at this stage, we're going to hit the plus or minus button. And we're going to get into the menu system. Just hold it until it changes. We have 16 parameters that we could change on this bike. And we're going to go through each one. We are on the first parameter, that's number 1, blinking. And this is basically the brightness of the display unit itself. 03 is the brightest setting you could get. If you want to change the display setting, you click the I button. And that makes this thing blink. So now we could change that setting by clicking the in minus button. We can have, see, go dimmer, 2, 1 real dim. But we keep it at 3 because you need it. Now, you figure out what setting you want, just click the I button. It's going to save it, and then it's going to go waiting for the next parameter. So we click the up button to move on to the next parameter. So now we're on parameter number 2, and here we could adjust between miles per hour and kilometer per hour. So if you want to change it, click the I button, get you in the change mode. You click the plus or minus button to change between kilometers per hour, miles per hour. So we're going to stay on miles per hour. Then you click the I button once more. That saves it, and it tells you, let's go to the next parameter. If you're through at this point, just turn off the power of the bike, and this will save it automatically into the computer. But now we're going to go to parameter number 3. Parameter number 3 is the number of volts. You preset at the factory at 52 volts because this is a 52 volt system. If it's at 48 volts, then you click the I button to change it, and then you click the plus or minus button to move up to 52 volts. Click the I button again to save it. But it's at 52 volts, we're good to go. We're on parameter 3, click up, we're going to 4. Now 4 is basically how long you want the display to stay on for. Right now it's at 10 minutes. If you want to change it, click the I button, click the up button for 11 minutes, click the down button to move downwards. We want to save it at 10 minutes, that's just about right. That's the default setting, so click the I button again. It's going to save it, and we're ready to move on to the next parameter, which is number 5. Number 5 is kind of important. This is the number of passenger assist levels you need. 5 is perfect. This one here is set up initially for 0 to 5. 0 meaning that we have no power assist, we just pedal the bike as normal. Most people set this thing from 1 to 5 because once they get on the bike, they don't want to fool around adjusting the power assist level. So we got 0 to 5. Now if you want to make changes, hit the I button. Plus button, there's 1 to 5, so that removes that. And then you could keep clicking. You got 0, 7 settings, 9 settings. So you go up to 9 different power assist levels. You don't need that many. 5 is good enough, so we'll go down to 5. And click the I button to save. Now we're ready to go move on to the 6th one. The 6th one is your wheel size or your tire size. You want to make sure this is set for 24. I think mine came from the factory set at 26 because the 26 is for the Seeker model. So basically, to change it again, click the I button, click the plus or minus button to change the size of the tire, click the I button to save it, and we're going to go on to parameter 7. Parameter 7, that's the magnet sensor. Leave it default, don't change that, you don't want to mess it up. Number 8, this is the big one. This is how we change the throttle limit on this bike. I think it comes from the factory, it's set up for like 34 miles per hour. So you want to change it from the factory setting, click the I button. We're in the change mode, then just click the plus button until you get up to 63 miles per hour. That means that your throttle limit is removed. Click the I button to save it. Now we're going to 9th parameter. This is the startup setting. You got a choice between 0 start at 0, or 01 is non-zero start. You want to keep it at 00. Okay, so let's move up to number 10. Number 10 is the drive modes. Let's click the I button to change it. Down button. 00 means that it's only pedal mode, no motor at all. 01 means that it's motor only, no pedal at all. 2, it's using both pedal and motor. That's what you want to set. That's why you have an e-bike, right? So we leave it at 02. We save it. And let's go up to parameter 11. Parameter 11 is the amount of cranks of the pedal that you want to do before the motor assist comes in and kicks in. Now, some of the seasoned riders, they want the motor to come in immediately. When you just touch the pedal, they want the motor to kick in. Most people, they want to have maybe a little bit delay or lag, or maybe 2 or 3 cranks of the pedal, so that you don't get that instant push. You're able to navigate the surroundings that you're in. So I got out on 4. You could click the I button and change this all the way up to 24 cranks. But I think 4 is good enough. It gives you 2 2 or 3 cranks and then the motor assists you along. So click I to save. And now we're going to throttle parameter. This is kind of confusing. This is pedal assist strength. 0 being the weakest, 5 being the strongest. If you're new to e-bike, you probably want to have it set at 0 so you don't have that instant rush when you start pedaling. You know, it's going to give you a slow ramp up. So keep it at 0, 0. Okay, so now we're on parameter 13. This is the number of sensor magnets that's in your system. We got 6, leave it there. Don't ever change that. That's default. Number 14, current limit. I think from the factory it comes in at 20. This is, you know, leave it at 25 because we have 25 amp controllers. So don't increase it to 50 because you don't want to burn out your system, you know. So leave it at 25. Okay, now 15 is the battery under voltage. This is the amount of voltage that's going to take to let you know that, hey, you're out of battery, start pedaling, you know. So this is the lowest level that you want to go, and it's 43.5. So just leave it whatever the factory setting is for you. Last one, parameter number 16 is basically if you want to reset your odometer. 01 means that you want to reset your odometer. 00 means no, just let it keep rolling. So that's it. I mean, there's a couple other ones, but they're not being used. So 16, now to save everything, you just cut out the power. And once you turn it back on again, everything is saved into the computer. So you don't have to worry about changing it ever again unless you want to. So you can see we've got about 103 miles on this bike already. So we've been playing around with it. And that's why I decided to do this video since I pretty much acclimated on what this bike could do. Okay, a couple of things that they have on here is that red button here, that's for single and dual mode. Push it in, it's on both front and rear motor. You're gonna know because you hear it. Then we got the headlamp button here, turns the lights on and off. But the good thing about this bike is that you don't have to worry about this because once it gets dark enough, the headlamps and the back lights come on immediately. Or the front lights and the back lights come on automatically. So it's like a regular car. It comes on automatically when it gets dark at night. Or you could do it manually also. Here and here. This is your horn. Horn's integrated into the headlamp, so it's pretty loud. So it's gonna get somebody's attention. So this video is on, you know, adjustments to the bike and to the computer to suit your needs. If you see this video and you wish to purchase the bike, I do have affiliate link available with the coupon code. When you use the link to purchase the bike, TUTTIO will send me a few bucks on my way, so help support my channel. But TUTTIO does not sponsor me at all. I just purchased this bike out of my own pocket, so just a quick disclaimer on the affiliate link. So now next video will be my actual riding impressions of this bike. And we'll do some speed test on it and stuff like that, but I'll just give you a little hint. It's very, very fast. So I hope you found this video informative. Please click the like button. When you have a chance, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.